Okay, when I put the starboard rail on first, it projected out a little bit farther. I took my Japanese draw saw and drew a line down through this in order to cut this one to the center line all the way down. I did bob its nose a little bit because I had too much material out there to have to futz with. So, and it'll also be bobbed back in this direction too, so it'll have a nice rounding on it. But when I brought in the starboard or the port rail, I had to bring it in and keep bringing it in and then chopping it off until I got it down close. And then once I had these two pieces close enough together, I just ran my Japanese draw saw up and down. That's my pointing finger. Up and down through here to eat away on that part on the port rail until it started working its way back in. I'm not certain how I'm going to finish this off. I think once this is glued together, I'm going to take my saw and draw or cut a notch in here and insert possibly a thin piece of black walnut in here just for some color, and then epoxy that in and then round it over. So we'll see what happens. Remember, whatever you do with the corners, the bow piece, the breast hook, it's your boat. Let your ideas run wild. I have another piece of block. I've got a sacrificial piece here that I will fit inside on the very nose, and then I cut out a piece of the Marante to match the rails that I'll transfer my finished piece over. It will actually be longer than this one, so it'll come back about 5 inches from the inside here. And then I'm going to, I don't know, I'll either stop there or add some decorative color back, maybe an inch or two, starburst or something. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Like I said, every boat is different, and do whatever you feel like. Okay, we're going to do some preliminary trimming back here, some of these excess edges on the ends. One thing I didn't show you was after I had the after stern rail mounted, I took my draw knife and I placed it up, hold it next to the plywood, and then just kind of slowly draw it back and forth, and then it'll give you a good clean true edge on the ends of the outside rails. So when you install the outside gunnels fore and aft, they have a nice, well, the correct surface to line up against when you glue them in place, which I didn't show you. But now I'm going to go ahead and cut these things down. I'm going to pull the little blocks out first, and then we'll come back for a little short. You don't need to see the whole thing, but I'll give you an idea of what I'm doing. Okay, we're going to cut off the port rail outside excess. So just kind of hold the draw saw up next to the Okay, I'm going to just use my regular little coping saw and stay high on this. I'll come back with the low angle plane and dress this down, but just kind of I put in a series of cuts, vertical cuts in there just to make it a little easier. So I was using these vertical cuts actually to set the inside and outside heights of the two rail sets. Okay, I just took my small hand plane and then rough down the edges, get them close to where they're going to be. I'll come back later and fine tune it. Right now I just wanted to get it close and cleaned up a little bit. Got the outside port rail done, and now we'll start fitting the end pieces. I need to reestablish my center line, get the boat balanced up and tied down again. The hand planing has pretty much ruined any leveling that it had. So okay, I've got my center line back installed in the boat again with a couple plumb bobs pointing down towards the center line. I've got the boat leveled back up and tied down again. So once I've got my center line in, I put a little clamp down in here with a piece of wood on it, so I'll be able to have something to grip with the tape measure on the end that is close enough to the end of the boat that for what purposes we're going to do here. Remember, we're not putting the man on the moon. Okay, let me reset. Okay, now once I've got my my distance, I put in a couple boards that I use to measure from side to side, and the center of the middle seat is 5.5 feet, which will be the center of the daggerboard trunk. So the aft edge of the seat is going to be 5 feet, which is this side of the board I have, the forward side of this board I have. And I got it measured back from known points, or lines we cut in the top edge of the top panel to equalize. So now I know that this edge here is a foot back, and normally what I design is when you're setting down your crotches at the edge of the seat, and I measure back 12 inches. If you're really tall, you might go back 13 inches or 14 inches, but normal, I'm 5'10", 12 inches is fine. So 12 inches from that is right here, which is 1 3/4 inches ahead of the 1, 2, 3, 4, the original 4-foot station line that we marked down. So we've got that one in place. We'll go ahead and do the bow oarlocks, or the forward seat oarlocks. The center of the forward seat is 8.5. We come back here, I've got this squared up already at 8 feet. And so we come back 12 inches back from this aft edge here, and we're right in there, and we're about 2.5 inches ahead of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-foot station cut line. So now I can go in and lay out my long rod, or long spacers for strength on the oarlock position. One easy way I've found, now that I've got my corner block here installed, is to lay something like this 2-inch rafter square up, give you a line, offset line back here, and then do the same thing in here. Okay, you've got two lines, one right here and then the other one's offset just a little bit. So then you would take your adjustable bevel and then slide this angle over to the end where, where am I in here? Over the end here to where you're not wasting a lot of stock. And you got that line right there, and then figure out this bevel here. And then move it up to where that line is. And as a check, you can set this bevel again, now that you know where this end is, and then come back over on the other side and transfer like this. And then you can set it down and use your pull saw to cut this angle. It'll fit right in. Okay, the other thing you're going to have to do too is do a little bit of rounding here, because remember we got a radius in that corner. Sometimes I've stopped the fillet and the taping up to below where I know the rail is going to be, so I have, you know, straight angles to deal with and not the radius. If I was going to do a big corner plate, that's the way I would do it. But this will work okay. Just put a little bit of radius on the inside corner, and it's fitting pretty tight now. And remember, we're going to take a saw and widen up this gap and stick in a nice big block and true everything up, and it'll be full of epoxy. And you may notice it, but nobody ever is going to look at it again. So we got one, and now I got to just chop it off to the right length.